next order of business turns over to our engineer about the ARLE grant.
Thank you. So our item tonight is the ARLE funding program resolution. This is the automated red light enforcement grant. This is for traffic signal and various traffic improvements. So Township is applying for funding for the Newtown-Yardley Rd and Tara Blvd RRFB, as well as the Sycamore Street and Silo Drive RRFB projects. So we're in the process of preparing that grant application now. This resolution authorizes submission of that grant.
Motion approved.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
Yeah, can you explain? I just had a question about the timing of this. Can you go through that?
So the timing for the grant, so the grant is due at the end of June. So we would obviously approve this resolution and then prepare that application for the end of June. They give us a general timeline of when they anticipate giving funding, hopefully by the end of this year. Grant awards would be announced. Another aspect of this approval was we had submitted a scoping document to PennDOT, which it's sort of like a preliminary application where they give us feedback on the application. We got favorable feedback from them for this, so that happened last week.
So very good, but I noticed in the 2023 budget there was $250,000 allocated from ARPA funds for example, Sycamore Street improvement, which I assume has to do with that intersection.
Yeah.
Can we start in any of these projects before we know that we have a grant?
The project could be started with this grant, particularly any funding that's expended by the municipality, whether it's for design or construction, cannot be reimbursed through the grant. So timing wise, this may cover construction costs for both of those. So the timing may work out by the time that they would announce an award, if the township were to receive funding, that it could cover the construction of these improvements.
So it's kind of a wash in the end. Nothing will happen until after January, basically.
You can obviously proceed, but just knowing that it wouldn't get reimbursed through this program per se. Yep.
Is there a period of time from the design phase to the construction phase?
There will be, so the design, we're working on that preliminary design now. We will be in a position shortly to submit to PennDOT with the design plans. Once we get that approval from PennDOT, which could take a month or two on their end, we then have to go out to bid for these projects. So that usually takes a month or two as well.
So I'm just reacting to your things line up so that it would be kind of the end of the year when we know about the grant and have the pre-construction work done. Okay, very good. Any other comments or questions from the board? Any from the public? Please come forward and give us your name.
Yes, good evening, Charles Feuer.
And turn on the mic. There you go.
Good evening, Charles Feuer, Newtown Walk, and part of the group that has supported and assisted the township in getting this project moving. At this point, we're, like Mr. Mack started to ask, I think, trying to understand the delay at this point. And I'll start with the plan itself. It's a fairly common type of roadway situation with a pedestrian crosswalk. I would think that a plan similar to this, or almost exactly to this, would have been submitted prior in many occasions for the signals that we're putting over this roadway. We're concerned with the continued safety. We had a 3-car accident there this week, right? We had a 3-car accident at this particular intersection. So we as concerned citizens, on behalf of the township, as well as our own community and the Newtown Trail, are trying to understand we believed that the funding for this from ARPA had been approved by the township with the initial approval of this plan. And now, is the township applying for ARLE funds as a secondary thought? Or would we have been waiting for the ARLE funds, which haven't even been applied, the grant hasn't even been applied for? I thought that grant had to be applied for by April of this year, but now we're hearing June. So I guess my question at this point is, were the funds available for this project at all yet, or have we been waiting for ARLE funds?
Well,
Do you want me to, I can comment on that?
Sure.
So, Micah, you might have more information on the exact allocation of the funding. I know there's funding set aside. This grant is containing 2 intersections, so that's why that cost is a little bit higher than what was previously discussed as allocated.
There's nothing in the budget currently, in the 2023 budget for this project. We're seeking funds to be able to do this project at this time.
Wait a minute, there's I forget what page, I can tell you, I've seen it.
Sycamore Street.
That is for Sycamore Street.
What is Sycamore Street? What's that
Sycamore and
from?
Silo.
Excuse me?
Sycamore and Silo Drive.
Oh, okay, that's one of these
Yeah.
intersections, okay.
Sycamore Street construction was $250,000.
Correct, yep.
And, I mean, we could change that, but it would have to be through resolution of the board.
So I guess the answer to my question was, there's been no funding allocated in 2023 for the Newtown-Yardley project. Okay.
Correct.
I guess as concerned citizens, is there any way that funding from the ARPA, which the last allocation pie chart that was distributed showed $1 million as unallocated, and I think that was as of March of this year.
I don't know which pie chart you're looking at.
I created a pie chart based on what I knew at that time. It may have changed since then in terms of the amount of money that is still unallocated. But it should be, I believe, around 800,000 at least.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Well, we definitely want to work with you, and we're going to continue with that. As it stands at this point, Sycamore and Silo has been on the docket for about 1.5 years. You're on the docket. We've been working with you for about 3/4 of a year.
A year. June is when we started our advocacy last year.
I think you may have voted on it in September, October.
Right, but we started emailing.
Right.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Valerie, Mihalek, Newtown Walk. Again, we appreciate all that you're doing. We started physically coming to the meetings last September, but started emailing last June when we had children almost hit in the pedestrian mid-block crosswalk, which is very unusual to the township. And the father got hit moving his children out of the way. What we're confused about, and I know John was speaking to this, was that when we were here last year, the board unanimously voted for the ARPA funds, which it was our understanding, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, that part of that funding was going for the cost of the traffic light. And it was also our understanding that the cost of the traffic light, correct me if I'm wrong, was no more than $200,000 for the RRFB. So now we're being told that there was no funding allocated at all in 2023 for this RRFB signal, which comes as a surprise to the 30 people that I've been working with throughout the area where we live, because it was our understanding that there was money allocated, not of course in 2022, but for 2023 when we came to one board meeting after another. So this is concerning to us. As you know, you got a very emotional email from one of our neighbors, Sue Coleman, who witnessed someone nearly getting struck in the mid-block pedestrian crosswalk. And John and Dennis, you both came and met with us there and saw how extremely dangerous it is. So although we had one win with lowering the speed limit to 25 miles per hour, unfortunately, a lot of people are not following it. We do have a sign there now that monitors people's speed limit. I do think that is helping. But the problem is, as Charlie stated at one of our meetings, when you're going 35 miles per hour, because of the line of sight issue, when the cars reach the crosswalk, they can't stop when people are in there. So that situation never goes away. And I don't understand what the car accident was the other day with the 3 vehicles, but it was where the crosswalk is. But I don't know what the outcome of that was. So to hear that now the project is not going to even be started till possibly January of 2024 is very concerning to us. I don't know what more we can do to expedite this. I know with Silo, a person was killed there, but that is not a mid-block crosswalk, and it is not the same issue that we have with line of sight and all the issues that we know, the sun glare, and where the supervisors came and actually witnessed all that we've been telling you. So my question is, what can we do to expedite this? Is there anything? Because when we were looking at the ARLE funding, like Charlie was saying, what we were reading, the submission had to be the end of April, so it's now the end of June. And we were looking on PennDOT's website for application.
The funding the application's due at the end of June. There was a pre-scoping application that was due in the beginning of May. Don't quote me on the date. It was maybe the beginning of May. So that application did go in, that pre-application.
Right, so now I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking 2 months for actually several months for approval. And then the other question is, when the design is completed, it will go before the supervisors so people in our community can at least see the design before it is submitted to PennDOT. Is that something that will happen? I know we've been going back and forth on emails about that.
Can I address one aspect of what
Yes.
you're talking about? I don't believe that we should allocate funds based on who came to us first. I think we should allocate funds based upon the perceived danger. I know we've made some improvements at the Silo Drive and North Sycamore, and I haven't heard of any accidents at that intersection. And whereas you are talking about current accidents near Tara Drive, so I would suggest that instead of the $250,000 being set aside for Silo Drive and Sycamore Street, that it be used in the case of this overhead light for Tara Drive. That would make it, I think, more responsive to the current situation.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter to me who came first before the board to ask for this. And then we can have the money, hopefully from this fund, to go back to North Sycamore Street. That's what I would recommend if the board is in mind to reallocate that $250,000.
Thank you. I think that is an excellent point. I think, as you said, if you were to look at in the last year, where are the issues happening? It continues to be where we are, again, because of the mid-block crosswalk and the line of sight and the sun glare and the speed limit issues. I'm just going to say it's going to be a matter of time until someone's going to be hurt there. As I've said to you, I live at towards the front of the community, and we continue to hear cars screeching. And again, I will say it's not because people don't want to stop and are ignoring the pedestrians. It's because by the time they get to the mid-block crosswalk, they can't stop. The other thing is, I don't know how we let people know. I know Pennsylvania state law is that in order for cars to stop, the pedestrian has to go into the crosswalk. When you leave the Newtown Walk community and you step into the crosswalk, and many of us have observed this, particularly children on bicycles, they have to put the bikes into the turning lane that is going into our community. So pedestrians are very hesitant. Ellen, you probably can understand, since I know you live over there, what I'm talking about. But because we have the big turning lane going into Newtown Walk, the crosswalk, to go into the crosswalk, the children who are on bikes are now in the turning lane. So no one really wants to go and do that. So I don't know, I mean, technically then, according to Pennsylvania law, the cars don't have to stop. Did you want to say something?
Linda Rowley, Newtown Walk. This morning, I was waiting to cross back into Tara Blvd, and a car stopped to let me go. I was barely halfway across, and he gunned it and took off before I was even out of the crosswalk. The other thing is, I put my cruise control on, so I go 25 miles an hour. When I'm coming from town, as soon as I turn into that turning lane, they floor it and pass me. Nobody is going 25 unless the cop is sitting there.
Thank you all. What we have before us is the approval of the resolution for the ARLE grant. I would be happy to have a conversation to get some figures from the administration as to how much of the Sycamore improved street construction funds are still available, because I know we've spent some on LED lighting, and to upgrade that intersection, we've spent some money already. It would be something I could bring back to the board when we all have a chance to look at it, and we can make a decision as to what to do with that. I mean, that would be my proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's a reasonable approach. Thank you.
Okay.
I do want to say that every day I cross right there to take my dog over to the cemetery, and probably 8 times out of 10, I'm confronted with motorists that absolutely aren't paying attention, or don't care about the speed limit. They don't care about anything, they just want to get to their destination. So, yeah, I have to agree, it's just the most dangerous place there is to cross the street. So, whatever we can do to expedite that, I would be all in favor for it.
And they don't like me because I go 25. But, okay, shall we call the question? All those in favor of approving the ARLE grant application process, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
That concludes the agenda items. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has.